25th. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Goffstown Planning Board, and in accordance with our rules and procedures, we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you can join me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And our usual second act is to have everybody identify themselves at the table. Joanne, if we can start with you, please.
Joanne Duffy, Planning and Economic Development Director.
Philip Giovanza.
Joshua Douglas, Selectman Representative.
Scott Ozana, Town Engineer.
My name is Barbara Griffin. I'm acting as chair tonight as the regular chair, Tim Redmond, was not able to attend.
I'm David Pierce, an alternate member.
David, you will be voting tonight due to the absence of regular members, which is why we have alternates. So thank you for being here tonight. The next order of business is correspondence and action items. The only thing we have to address are minutes.
Motion to approve.
So would that be for the site walk on September 6th?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for the minutes of the site walk on September 6th. Is there any further discussion on those? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries unanimously. We also have been given by email and by hard copy tonight the minutes of September 11th. Do I have a motion?
to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
It was moved by Phil Devanza, seconded by our Selectman Representative Joshua Douglas. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? It carries unanimously. All right, we cruise through those orders of business. All right, the next thing we take up are matters of old business. We have none. The next matter we routinely take up as in order is new business. So the first application we have tonight is map 8, lot 46-16-18. This is a completeness review, conditional use permit review hearing for a proposal to add a second driveway on a lot that has 201 feet of frontage, whereas 250 feet is required per section 7.4.2 of the zoning ordinance of Goffstown. The property is located at 74 Meadowlark Lane, owned by Stephen and Lisa Ellis. The property is zoned agricultural. Joanne, is this application complete?
Yes, it's complete with no regional impact.
All right, so we're ready to proceed on this. Can I have a motion to accept? I know it's my usual motion, Phil, I'm sure you can
Motion
do
to
it. All right,
Second.
is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, that have got the application for tax map number 8, lot 46-16-8 in front of us.
With
Joanne?
no regional impact.
Oh, your motion includes that? Thank you. I have to admit, I sort of assumed
That's okay.
that if the minute taker can reflect that. Joanne, can you tell us what we have in front of us with this, please?
Sure, the owner, if you look at the plan, let me just find mine. It's in the packet attached. It's just a small hand-drawn plan. The applicant has a driveway, that is, goes towards his house and his garage. He would like to add a second driveway to park his RV, and this way it'll be away from the house and it'll provide extra space so he doesn't have to deal with the RV and the cars in the same driveway.
Okay, do these go out for input from anybody?
Yes, they did, and no one had any comments. The only thing that was brought up is that he will need a driveway permit from DPW if this is
If it's approved.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions for Joanne on this? Seeing none, is anybody here on behalf of the Ellises? Why don't you come on up and have a seat right here at the end. This is the procedure when somebody has an application. We have them come up to address us, and if you could, for the first item of business, identify yourself.
My name is Stephen Ellis,
All right.
74 Meadowlark Lane.
Thank you. Why don't you tell us about your application?
Well, I think Joanne sort of hit it. I have a new camper and I want to get it out of the driveway, especially for the winter, and we have a nice little spot that we could tuck it into the woods and it would be sort of out of the way and out of sight from people driving by.
Okay.
And the only, you know, I know, I think I talked to Scott about the permits and all that would have to go through to go to the next
I
step.
think it was
I
Eric
think
that
so.
you would have talked to.
Eric,
Yeah.
you're right, Eric,
Yeah.
you're right.
Okay, so the purpose of this is for parking, not for access to a structure?
Correct,
Okay.
yeah, so,
Scott,
Go ahead, David.
we, on any driveway application, we normally get concerned about the distance to other driveways, the distance to street corners, the distance from boundary lines.
This meets those
This
regulations.
sketch doesn't,
No, but so he staked it out in the field and Eric went and checked that portion of it. It just doesn't meet the frontage.
The lot,
They're
the
required.
underlying lot, the lot that we're
Right.
doing
Correct.
doesn't meet.
those
okay.
other conditions I just mentioned that we get worried about, it's not an issue.
Correct, yes.
And I will follow up on David's comment, Joanne. I was disappointed in the map because it didn't show that. And I think Mr. Ellis would have been well served by some direction to even just take a picture off the GIS of his lot to give a general area of it.
Yeah, he has on
Well,
the
he has
sketch
the
from the
pole.
driveway permit, it's 13 feet to the boundary line and 10 feet is the minimum. So
Okay.
he meets that.
Okay.
What's the page that says
Scott, is
denied?
there a,
It was denied because of the fact that it doesn't have the frontage for a
Frontage.
second driveway.
is there a drainage swale
Um,
that would need a culvert?
You know, I'm not sure. I'd have to check with Eric, but he's on top of that type of thing. Did Eric
Yeah.
talk to you about that? Okay.
yeah, I mean, our existing driveway has one, so I'd assume that one would as well.
Okay.
I mean, there's,
And that would be part of the permitting process, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
It's in the packet. I don't think Eric included that sheet. Eric has a sheet that he fills out.
I didn't see anything in what we got that.
Yeah.
Anything about details about.
As long as the permit process covers it.
Right.
Okay.
It says here in his memo that he mentions what's needed, and one of them is in any other requirements for construction, such as a
Right.
culvert type.
Okay. All right, Mr. Ellis, you have anything you want to add? Doesn't mean you have to.
no, no, I think you guys have discussed it all. If there's any other questions about the site, I'd be happy to answer them, but it's
Okay, all
pretty
right. Does
straightforward.
anybody have anything else? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ellis. Let me, at this time, is there anybody here from the public that wants to speak to this application? Abutters get noticed of these things, so that if they have questions or concerns, we can hear from them. Is there anybody here for for this application? I've got two
So-
people in the audience, and they're both looking at me and
No.
saying no.
Not my place, no.
Okay, I'm gonna to the extent I opened the public hearing already, I'm going to close the public hearing because there's nobody present. Is there any further discussion or issues that, anybody wants to discuss? Is there any issue, Scott, with how the distance from the phone pole, does there anything have to happen with that?
No.
No? Okay.
One question.
Sure.
How, to the left of your driveway as you're entering from the road, where is the nearest driveway to the left?
That would be my neighbor, and that's probably another 15 or 20 feet past that pole. The pole's the boundary line, so his driveway sort of is close to our lot line, but it's...
On his side of the
On his
lot.
side, yeah, on his side, but it's probably 20 feet or so. Because he has a little spot when you pull into his driveway that he keeps his snowmobile trailer, so that's in between that.
Potentially is still
It
some
needs to be
forested
40
area.
feet from the other driveway, so I'm surprised if it's just...
I don't think it's 40 feet.
Potentially, is there any forested area left when you're done clearing your driveway between
Oh.
you and your neighbor?
Yeah, there's, I'm not gonna be clearing hardly anything. It's a sort of an open spot, open space.
I looked at it, it's considerably forested in that area.
Yeah, I mean, there's trees, but there's enough, like, I think I'm gonna cut down to trees maybe that big to get in. I have to redo my stone wall that I built like 20 years ago. But other than that,
You doing the math on that, Scott?
I was looking at the wrong thing. Just hoping he's Google, but I meant to really use the GIS.
Well, Eric probably pasted, did Eric went
would've-
out to
I
the
would've-
site? Yeah,
Yeah.
I would have thought he would have pasted it up.
Too many phones.
There's another requirement for distance from other driveways, so he's checking to see if that's met.
I mean, if it doesn't meet, Eric, we'll have to deny it again, unfortunately.
Well, that's why I'd sort of like to,
I
Well-
can't imagine that he missed that, though.
yeah, no one ever mentioned
to the neighbor's
to the
driveway.
neighbors. It was all within my lot line and where, you know, how far away it is from my present driveway, but not the other driveway.
I thought I had the parcel stuff loaded, but did not. There it is. Eric's typically very thorough, so I'd be surprised if he missed that.
I'm just trying to think, having driven by it, if I could guess how far it was, and I can't.
What's interesting about in Eric's letter, he doesn't mention distance, he only mentions frontage, he doesn't mention.
Well, because that was the reason
the
he denied it,
focus.
so maybe he already looked at that issue and it was okay. I don't know, it's hard to tell, we can't tell. So,
So according to the GIS, there's 38.7 feet from the edge of the neighbor's driveway to the property line. So if he's 13 feet,
Well, he's got
he's
plenty of
over
room.
40 feet by,
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
11 feet or so.
Yay, Eric.
So,
He's very thorough.
Yeah, he seemed it on the phone, so.
all right, Mr. Ellis, you're asking for a conditional use permit, so while we still have you at the table, you filled out a form that had a bunch of paragraphs, and one of them was to see if you met the 5 criteria, and we sort of need to do this to be able to meet our requirements. So one of them is that the use is specifically authorized in the ordinance as a conditional use, and is that the case when it comes to us?
Yes.
Okay. And if you do this driveway, it will comply with the requirements of this section and statute, so long as you get the driveway permit and our permission for frontage, is that
Yes.
correct? Other than that, you'll be in compliance with everything else. The other requirement is that the use is compatible with the neighborhood and adjoining or abutting uses in the area to which it is located. Do the other properties in your neighborhood have driveways?
Yes, they all did.
Okay, all right, so it's compatible with
It
those?
is compatible.
Okay. And the use will not have a substantial adverse impact on vehicular or pedestrian safety. Is that correct?
That is correct.
It has good sight lines,
It has great sight lines, and there's only 4 houses past my house.
and
So
it's for purposes of parking a vehicle, not for access to the structure, right?
Correct,
Okay.
yeah.
And the use will not have a substantial adverse impact on the appearance and visual quality of the surrounding neighborhood. Is that
No,
correct?
that
The
is correct.
driveway doesn't have any bad architectural features to it?
No, but if you talk about my neighbor's drive, no, just kidding. No,
Okay.
it's gonna look really nice.
Okay, and the use will be adequately serviced by necessary public utilities and by community facilities. And is there any need for community or utility services?
One would think not with the way, where it's gonna be.
Okay,
but
thank you.
there's-
All right,
Make a motion
thank you.
to approve the conditional use permit as presented.
Okay. Is there any
I'll second it.
further discussion on the motion which has been seconded by Mr. Devanza? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? It carries unanimously. Go talk to Eric.
Okay, and so, when you say go talk to Eric,
I think he needs the notice of decision technically
Okay.
to approve it, and it usually takes Patty in town hall a couple days to get that done, so.
Okay.
So probably next week.
Yeah.
Call
Give
Pat,
him a
call
buzz.
planning and see,
Yeah.
ask Patty when the permit.
Light a fire and get going.
Yeah. I
Don't
will let
light a
Eric know.
fire. We like Patty,
Actually, Eric's
but-
off tomorrow, so I won't even be able to tell him tomorrow.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for your time.
Have a good
Okay,
day.
thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
The second item of new business before the planning board tonight is map 17, lot 224. This is a completeness review, conditional use permit, waiver of development reg review hearing for a proposal to add a second driveway on a lot that has 100 feet of frontage, whereas 250 feet is required per section 7.4.2 of the zoning ordinance. Also required per section 7.4.2 is that the proposed driveway must have a 40-foot separation from abutting driveways, and the proposed driveway will be 5 feet from an existing driveway. The owner is seeking a waiver of Appendix A, Section 8.C.5 of the Goffstown Development Regs to allow for a second driveway to be located along the side property where a 10-foot setback is required. The property has a single-family home with an accessory dwelling unit and is located at 88 Lewis Street. The property owner is Michael Sharon, zoned residential 2. Joanne, is this application complete?
Yes, it's complete with no regional impact.
All right. Can I have a motion in regards to map 17, lot 224? Bill?
I'll make a motion to accept the application with no regional impact, and with waivers only for acceptance.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? It carries. All right, Joanne, why don't you tell us about this?
Okay, so there is currently, they have added an accessory dwelling unit to the original house. And the total frontage for the property is 100 feet. They wanted to add a second driveway because there's people living in the home that have several cars, and they have to keep moving them back and forth to get out of each other's way. So they figured the best thing to do would be to add a second driveway for the accessory dwelling unit so that they can get in and out without any problems of the people that live in the house. So the waiver is required because of the 10-foot. So there's two actions that you need to take. One is for the conditional use permit, not having the frontage, and I'm sorry, I'm mixed up here. The first one is the conditional use permit where 40 feet is required from the second driveway, and they don't have enough space, they only have the 5 feet. And then in addition, they need a 5-foot setback along the property line, the sideline, and they have 10, it's required to have 10 feet. They only have 5 feet along their sideline. So,
No, it's gonna be directly on the property line.
That's what it looks like in the picture.
Ah.
And it also,
Yeah, no, I don't think
I
there's
have
any
5
space.
feet.
and
Yeah,
it,
so, and the way you had it written was located alongside property where it lined with 10 feet side setback.
It's written upright.
Okay.
and it doesn't seem to be parking cars as much
Well,
as it says RVs.
Well, let's not, we're just
Well,
want to make sure we know what we need for action. That the request is twofold. Phil noted that in his motion to accept. There's a waiver in regards to the zoning setback, and there's a conditional use in regards to the fact that we allow second driveways with a conditional use permit. Is that
And
correct,
then a
Joanne?
conditional use for
Yes, and the
not meeting the 40-foot
Right,
separation
correct.
as well.
the person who, I met with the owner of the property, and that's what was explained to me. He does own an RV, which they would have enough space up on the side of the ADU to store that. He travels back and forth to Florida in the RV, but he didn't say anything about just it being for an RV. But he's here, so he can explain.
Right, they can explain it. And just so it can be addressed, it would appear to me to be pretty obvious that the other purpose of this is for access to the ADU, so,
Right.
the reality of this, so, we can, I'm sure the applicant can address everything. All right, anything else from board members? Okay, at this point, is there anybody here on behalf of this application to present for tax map 17, lot 224, on behalf of Mr. Sharon? You're here? All right, Mr. Sharon, why don't you come on up? All right, welcome. So you heard us describe what you're trying to do. Did we describe it right? What are you,
Well, I'm trying to keep the peace.
you're trying to keep the peace? But what do you mean by that?
Well, I'm always fighting with the family. You know, my wife passed away, and it's like I divorced her, and that's the way they treat me. That's why I try to get the driveway on the side, so I don't have to deal with them. And keep the
Sharon,
peace.
you're referring to the family who lives in the ADU.
I live in
in
it,
the
I built it
house.
for myself. Me and my wife, we started it. Me, she passed away 2 years ago. So, they treat me like a divorce. I'm just trying to keep the peace. She's the grandmother of my kid. That's why I want to be on the side. Because
So-
I can't come in with my motorhome and my motorcycle trailer in the side, where they want me to park. On this side here, the neighbors said it's okay. And that keeps the peace for everybody, everybody's happy. You know, that's all mine.
Okay.
So his mother-in-law lives in the house, and
Over 60 years. I'm married 49.
he owns the house. And he built the ADU for him and his wife to live in when they go back and forth from Florida. So that's why he has the motorhome. So he's trying to keep himself apart from the driveway traffic.
That's existing. Yeah,
That's
in front of the
existing, and
booth.
get himself where he can have his own driveway and go into the ADU.
Okay. Is it the plan, let me ask, is it a plan to pave this, or you just want to have legal access?
Well, I would like to pave it. It would keep my place clean because it's dirt, you know, and I would make it nice. And I would make a nice walkway in the front of the house, and I would keep the green. I would make some green. You know, I would make it presentable. I mean, so much. You know, I'm proud of my stuff.
All right, David?
Yeah, Mr. Sharon, the photograph you submitted shows a vehicle parked in front of the ADU.
Yes, because
Is that-
it's me.
Is that a lawn? It's not a driveway, probably.
It's
No, yeah, no, we've got it. It's a vehicle. So sometimes you tuck your vehicle or your RV right in front of the ADU instead of on the side, so you don't have to deal with the driveway. The
It
picture,
may have been from during construction.
and it might have been during construction. It's not,
Yeah.
don't,
Because the yard's a lot of dirt still, and I think,
See, it shows it.
yeah, when was the ADU constructed, Joanne?
well,
I
you know.
don't know
I think it
that.
was just
This is-
completed
It
this
shows
month.
a
looks
vehicle
brand
in
new.
front of
Oh,
the
this
ADU.
is my truck, as I was building this, so they took the paper, that's what I wanna park at.
Yeah, no, I was concerned if that was a driveway here.
No, it's all loan, it's all loan.
Thank you.
That's because they built the loan will spread next Tuesday, they're coming in. And I wanna finish with the driveway and, you know, do the job right, once, you know.
No, I was concerned if you were turning the area directly in front of the ADU into an informal driveway. It's not, it's supposed to be grass.
It's supposed to be, and it will be grass, you just gotta have probably 24 inches pat for walking.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
I will note in the picture across the street, it looks like the driveway is directly on the property line there as well.
Well, the neighborhood has driveways all over the place. That's one of the issues, is they're everywhere. I guess I have a question for Scott. Does it have to be, if he's talking about paving it, does it have to be 10 feet? How wide? I know we want,
I think our regs read a minimum of 10 foot, but I don't know whether we police the minimum width all that much. No one really even goes as narrow as 10 feet. At least we don't typically see that, so. Are you trying to suggest to make it a little more narrow.
Yeah.
Because the neighbors get about 8 inches on the side, and he goes, that would be great if you butt into my place, I wouldn't have to move my car, I could just squeeze in on your side and go bang bang, it'd be nice and easy. I said, I'm fine with that, you know,
I would
so.
also,
Hold on.
Scott, I would have a concern if we say yes to this condition, and then the driveway is physically paved on someone else's land. Is it proper for us to have a condition that they must know exactly where their boundary lines are?
Well, that would be a question for procedure, and why don't we get through for whether or not we can make that a condition. Joanne, did you want
I
to say
was
something?
just gonna say, I would caution using this map as the final location of the lot line, because
Yeah.
the GIS is not correct.
I'm not even sure, so this is a different program, this is Nearmap. I don't even think it uses ArcGIS, I'm not sure where the boundaries come from, because it's not updated like ArcGIS is. Obviously, this neighborhood hasn't changed in years, but I'm not even sure where their data comes from, so you can't
Okay.
trust these property lines.
Mm.
Well, the same thing, he's, according to
Yeah.
the written description says,
Right.
along the side boundary
assume-
line. And I would be concerned, do they know from an engineering standpoint exactly where the boundary line is?
It's always an issue when we give a permit for anything on a lot. Mr. Sharon, can you tell me that when you got the plan done for the ADU,
Yes,
it looks like there was a proposed additional parking area behind the house. Did that
Correct.
ever happen or not? What happened with that?
that's still, that's their backyard, I come in, I need to come in on the side of the house where they park and let them, excuse me, I need to get to my driveway, and I can't get in because there's always somebody parked on the side.
Okay.
They've been there for over 60 years,
I-
and try to change somebody,
No, I get it.
okay, it's not that easy.
Barbara, I believe the area shown as proposed is not paved. Behind the house is
It's not paved, there's nothing paved.
No, I
There's
understand that,
nothing
David.
paved.
I am
It's
aware
just-
of
I
what
just
plans
wanna-
look like.
It's an informal area.
I understand, David.
Okay, I would have to cut a tree that the old man plant and to come on.
Okay, you've sort of told us all about your application. Do you have anything else that you'd like us to consider?
No,
Okay,
I just wanna
thank you.
hear yes.
Okay,
So,
well,
Keep the peace, that's it. That's
okay,
it.
all right.
there are a couple notes on this plan that say see site survey or a provided civil site plan by from Joe Wickert. Does that plan show where the property bounds are? Like, do you know where your physical
I
bounds
mean, Joe
are?
did some work on it.
Yeah.
And Joe could not be here this month
That's
because
okay.
next month I got doctor's appointment, I have to go. And he said, good luck, and I came to the office.
Yeah.
And she helped me, and I just try to
Yeah.
move forward.
So is there another plan that shows where the property bounds are? And do you know where the physical property bounds are?
Joe did mark it,
Okay.
it was marker, and for my foundation, you know, for myself.
Yeah, I figured you
everything
must
gets
have
done.
had one for the foundation.
Yeah,
to-
everything gets done the right way,
Okay.
inspected.
I mean, that would help us to make sure that your new driveway is built entirely on your property, if we know where those.
Yeah, I
property
wouldn't
bounds
know, I know about where it is, you know, I mean, I can Joe come back and put a line, but
Yeah.
there's plenty of room for me.
are. Okay.
Do they need any other waivers? Like, I'm looking at the flare on the driveway. Do they need anything else in regards to the waiver? In regards to the driveway permitting process?
No, because the flare is only going to 20 foot, I mean, that 20.12 is probably not completely accurate, but you can go with
Did you go to the
5-foot
zoning board?
flares
No.
with
don't
22
even-
feet at the property
First time
bound,
for
so
me,
then
Okay.
Joe did
that is
everything for me
27 if you're
because
just
I don't have to
flaring on
live.
one
Did you
side.
go to the zoning
So
board?
that's
Yes, he did.
why,
He did
that's not
everything
too wide.
long time ago.
Um,
Everything went approved and
Okay.
I just don't want them to have to need a different waiver if we're.
No,
Do you want me to run
Eric,
upstairs and look
I mean, those three
in
that's being requested
zoning
are,
file?
appear to be the only issues. I mean, he is probably less than 40 from his own driveway, but
Oh,
I
I'm
think
sure
the
he is.
conditional use permit,
Deals with that.
you know.
He tells
for
me
the
that
40
Joe
on the other
went
side.
to the zoning board, so there should be a plan in the file upstairs for zoning.
Yeah, if they did a certified foundation plan, it's typically done
Yeah, it
off
would
the
be in the
bounds, so.
building file. Do you want
Yeah.
me to go look?
No, I think we just need it for when it comes time to make sure
Okay.
the driveway is constructed entirely on
Okay,
his
okay.
property and not over the line.
Mr. Sharon, is the front of the ADU the only entryway, or is there one in the back as well?
You get one on the back too. I got a deck on the back and the one on the side.
And is your RV roughly about 8 feet wide?
Um,
I'm just curious.
10.
10 feet,
And
okay.
32. I'm 57 feet with my trailer on the back.
Trailers are 10 feet wide?
It's long.
It shouldn't be.
My motorcycle trailer.
No, I think the roof,
Maybe with the mirrors.
with the mirrors, you probably get to 10.
Oh, if I push my Ford mirrors out, I bet I can get more than 10. Okay.
You can.
Which is why one of them is banged up. All right. Let me, you might have been here for the previous application. One of the things that you're requesting requires that certain conditions get met, and you filled out the paperwork. So I'm just gonna go through the paperwork you filled out with you, all right? Do you remember filling out paperwork that said the use is specifically authorized in the ordinance as a conditional use? Joanne, can you show him yours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
Do you
give
have it in front
I'll
of
give
you?
this one.
You got it, okay.
I have it,
So
okay.
is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And if you put the driveway in as proposed, once you get all the approvals to not meet the requirements, you'll make sure that you meet all the requirements of the ordinance, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And it's a driveway and the use will be compatible with the neighborhood or adjoining or abutting uses in the area, is that correct?
Yeah, yes.
There are lots of driveways in this area?
Yes.
Okay. And will the use have a substantial adverse impact on vehicular or pedestrian safety?
Yes. This side is very good.
Okay, so it will be fine, it's not
Oh,
gonna
it'll
cause
be-
any
it'll be fine.
problems?
I mean, yeah. I
Okay.
do everything right.
Okay,
That's why I'm here.
all
I
right,
got the permission, that's all.
all right. And the use will not have a substantial adverse impact on the appearance and visual quality of the surrounding neighborhood, and, is that correct? This is a driveway, not a structure, right?
The use, which one are you, 15?
On the 5, second
On
to
the
the last.
5?
Yeah, second to the last
Is
one.
the buddy's driveway. Imagery adjusted is the butter driveway?
Yeah, okay, it's the same as what it's gonna be
Yeah.
adjacent to. And do you need any public utilities to have a driveway?
No.
Okay, and do you need any community services to have a driveway? Okay, thank you very much. All right.
Technicalities. That's all that is.
Just another lawyer picking at technicalities.
Public,
All right, thank you very much. All
Thank
right. Is there anybody here from the public of any place that would like to comment on this application for map 17, lot 224? I'm opening the public hearing if anybody is here. There are 2 people in the audience. Neither one of them is indicating that they're here for this application. So with that, I am going to close the public hearing. Board members, if you're inclined to address anything, I guess it doesn't matter what order. You really need to deal with the waiver, I think, first, though, in regards to the conditional, as compared to the conditional use permit. The waiver goes to the setback issue for the driveway from the property line. It's pretty clear that the abutter doesn't meet the setback requirements. The abutter has been notified.
But from what, I mean, again, we don't have a clear line, is what you're saying, Scott. So we can't tell if they're on the line or if it's in between.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if Eric's email said anything about.
So I don't know if it's
No, I just read through it.
I don't know if it's a fair statement to say that the neighbor is not completely, I mean, they're definitely not within 10 feet, or, I mean, or,
Well, and then I'm also looking at the property across the street.
right, which we don't know if this line is accurate either after what I heard.
But
from
it's
Scott.
pretty clear that the driveways in this neighborhood can go to, pretty close to the
Pretty
property.
close to the property line. I do think that to avoid issues in the future, I do think it would be best if it wasn't directly on the property line.
Not touching the other driveway, you mean?
Correct.
Okay.
He
I
can
think
still drive over.
He's suggesting.
We can drive over the grass.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, I'm fine with that, I mean,
He's suggesting the edge of pavement isn't directly on your property line, that we set it back some.
yeah, he sets
some
back a
amount.
little.
Which is why I asked how wide your camper was and everything like that.
I'm sorry,
It's part of the reason why I asked how wide your camper was.
you know, I mean, it's just, that's it. You know, I mow it all the time with mine, but just to keep it clean, and he said that'd be nice, it's together, it's easy to plow and, you know, makes everybody happy.
I have to say, when I read this, I was not inclined to grant it, because I think this is an example of probably a zoning granting for the construction of the ADU without adequate consideration of access and parking, because just looking at it, it's pretty obvious it should have required another driveway for access to this unit. I mean, it's really sort of ridiculous that it got approved the way it is, and it's put him in a terrible spot. So my inclination was to say, oh well, but driving through that neighborhood, there are driveways all over the place. I mean, you couldn't possibly speed in that neighborhood, because there's it feels like there's a driveway every 20 feet. So,
I think people tend to drive slow through.
well, they do,
Down that
because
street,
of
right?
part
I'm
of
sorry?
that.
People tend to drive slow down, really, right? No?
Well, it depends if they're trying to get to a game.
Yeah, true.
It's not, I mean, they got those e-bike,
Oh,
they think
yeah.
they,
But I think, Barbara, to your point, I mean, I think the original intent was that they were gonna park in the back.
Well, that's part of my question that I have, Barbara.
Barbara?
Phil, then David,
Yeah,
please.
if this went to the ZBA, and this, what we have here, because I don't know what the rest of this came from, but if this is what went to the ZBA and they approved this, does that mean that that proposed parking is still approved in the back?
But I guess they didn't come here for a conditional use permit or a waiver not meeting the setbacks or otherwise, so I guess my point would be, they would meet zoning, so what difference would it make? Because we never saw this application in any form before, and so,
And technically, they would have needed a driveway permit to do that parking in the back, but obviously none was ever filed, but.
Well, I guess, see, that's why I'm asking the question. You say no driveway permit was ever filed, but do they still
Just this
have the
most recent
ability
one.
to go file for the driveway permit to get into the back?
I mean, you're more than welcome to file any driveway permit. I don't know if it meets based on the sketch. You know, it currently is too close to the property line, so now we're adding more that would be too close to the property line, so it would end up back here. Because the zoning board, I don't believe, votes on, or rules on driveway separation.
Right.
They have
that's not.
given that power to the planning board. But that's my understanding,
Well,
through the conditional use permit process.
well, I guess,
We don't even know if this is the plan that the zoning
Joe,
board
we're
saw.
gonna
This
take
is a
a,
building
we're gonna take
inspector
a
plan.
4-minute break, let's go get the zoning board approval, I don't want back on the record. It is 8:47. I've gone up with the planning director to pull the file on 88 Louis Street, which is map 17, lot 224. It doesn't look, we didn't see a notice of decision, but the minutes of the zoning board of adjustment are there from February 6, 2024, where a motion was made to approve a special exception to add an ADU unit to a single-family home on a lot that has .21 acres, whereas the lot is required to have a 10,000 square feet for an ADU, with the condition that they remove the shed and arbor that is on town property. Alan Eaton seconded the motion. There is no reference to the driveway. There's some discussion about parking, but there's nothing in the approval in regards to that, and the only plan in the file is what we're looking at. So it doesn't appear that it addressed anything to do with parking, and so there would need to be a driveway permit for work done, correct?
For what's shown there, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, if you expand your driveway, you're required to apply for a driveway permit.
Okay. So that is what we have. We got approval for the ADU with the plan as is attached to the packet. So there was some discussion about it, but basically the discussion came down to there are ADUs all over the neighborhood and multiple driveways all over the neighborhood, and they gave him the permit. So the first thing I'd like to address is the 10-foot setback, in as much as that a waiver is needed in order to go forward with the conditional use permit, because it needs to comply with the other provisions of our ordinance. Is anybody inclined to make a motion in regards to the waiver?
Just for clarity, Barbara, if we make a motion for the waiver, is that specifying the size of the driveway, or just the fact that we're accepting that we're foregoing
The 10-foot
the
setback.
10-foot setback?
Correct.
Then I will make a motion to accept the waiver, to approve the waiver of the 10-foot setback of the property
As
line.
contained in Appendix A, C5, in regards to 10 feet minimum from the side property.
Yes.
Um,
Did you want to condition that with some?
Yeah, I
Offset
think
from the property line?
with
You mentioned that.
at least what, 10-inch offset from the property line?
I was gonna say 3 feet.
I'm not gonna approve 3 feet, because I don't even know how much room
Okay,
there is.
how
I
that?
think if you do 3 feet, you're gonna have them put asphalt and have half of the vehicle not on the asphalt.
Right, I would say 12 inches, a foot.
A
A
foot.
foot, all right, with a foot. Condition with foot from the boundary, the property
Okay.
line.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right. Joanne, what are the findings we have to make in connection with the waiver?
The findings would be, with the waiver approval, it meets the requirements of both the development regulations and the zoning ordinance.
Which is not the case until we grant the conditional use permit.
Right, that's what I said, if, with the waiver.
Okay. All right, is there any, aren't there findings we have to make on the waiver?
I believe so.
Like similar to the conditional.
Oh,
use.
they're above on the staff report. But
Starting on
it's not something you typically
five.
vote on or anything, they're just part of what you should take into consideration.
No, I think we're talking about something. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
The regs
Aye.
for it.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? So it passes unanimously?
How was that? Yeah.
Okay. I'm waiting for the lack of silence is what I'm waiting for. All right, so the next thing we have to address is the conditional use. The conditional use permit is requesting a waiver, it's in regards to, Joanne, remind me, we are on section 7.4.2 in regards to a 40-foot separation from abutting driveways. Correct?
Yes.
Mr. Sharon went through the conditional use permit criteria. Is there any further discussion on this?
I just have one question. So he had mentioned that he's gonna get a walkway put in off of the driveway. Does that also need to be included in this or not?
I think it's gonna go from the driveway to the house.
Right.
Front step.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
nothing needs to be
We
shown
don't-
here?
We don't include
Okay.
that in the driveway permit. It's more about access to the town right of way that we're regulating.
All right. And do you need to have any details about how far back the driveway's going?
Thank you, that was my next question. Mr. Sharon, is the driveway, this is pretty informal at this point, because we're trying to figure out what we can do to accommodate you, given the neighborhood. How far back are you planning on making this driveway go?
I think it was 40
Pardon me?
feet.
And how close to the back line does that take you?
Oh, good 20 feet, guarantee. The back line is at the end of his garage,
Okay,
and I'm finishing when my deck's finished. That's where my driveway would stop.
That's not what's shown in the,
If you see the deck in the back,
yeah,
okay, that's where my driveway would stop.
His representation.
Just the length of the house.
30 feet doesn't even reach the back of the house.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be closer to 70 something if you're going all the way to the end of the
well,
deck.
in this drawing, it says 54.57 feet. So
That's from that angle point though, so look at the 66 side,
no.
that's one straight line, see that 66-foot measurement?
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So if you then go to the back of the deck, that's what I'm saying, it's closer to 70 something.
and how,
I-
where's the lot?
You know, house.
It doesn't
It
have
does
the lot
say lot
dimensions on it,
dimensions.
I can see what's.
Well, he would need to comply with the driveway regulations in regards to where he stopped it, right? As far as the setback from the back line?
Correct, I would think.
I don't know if there is a setback from the back lot
It's
line.
not something
Side-
that
It's
you
listed
usually-
as side lot, yeah, it's not something that,
It comes up very
Yeah.
often. All right. You're gonna go no further than the back of the patio though, correct?
I'm stopping at the patio because I'm putting a small fence for the dogs so they don't get out.
Okay.
Stopping where the patio starts or where it completes and ends?
Do you mean you're stopping at the end of the house where the patio, where the deck begins? Or
Yes.
at the end of the deck?
At the beginning of the house.
At the end of the house?
At the end of the house.
Okay.
Okay, so it's the
That's right.
66.23 feet.
and
Okay.
it looks like his property's about 92 feet deep according to the GIS.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit, knowing that the driveway will end at 66.23
Well, at the end of the house.
feet
Yeah.
at the end of the
At the end of the
I don't
house.
trust the measurements.
Yeah, those measurements are off at a
And
aerial
that he
picture,
meets the
so-
criteria.
And he meets the criteria, yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, it carries unanimously. All right, Mr. Sharon, you're all set. You need to contact planning
was that-
next week.
Hold on, there were
Okay.
2 conditional use permits, the one for the frontage as well. Do you need to vote on that separately?
Yes,
Okay, we didn't do that, right?
No.
No.
Okay.
Not that
correct. That's why I asked Joanne, how many, it's one section, 2 permits, though, correct? We didn't discuss the frontage issue, the separation issue.
We should-
No, but you just did the 40-foot separation, now it's the 200,
the
he only has
frontage.
100 feet of frontage when 250 is required for the
Thank
second
you,
side.
Scott. All right, and the same conditional use criteria
742
would
is the
apply.
same section.
It is the same section.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit with regards to the 250 feet requirement for secondary driveway.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
That's frontage though.
Frontage.
Separation, yeah. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, it carries. All right, thank you for reminding me, Scott. We should have probably just put them together, but. it makes
Yeah,
it
they're
clearer.
the same section too.
Yeah, I know. All right, so contact Patty in planning next week. Okay? Because she's got to do the notice and you'll get your decision so you can go talk to DPW about the driveway permit.
Yeah, Eric needs that, Eric
Yeah,
needs the piece of paper that said this board approved it and the conditions we just talked about, which is the foot off your property line and ending the driveway at the end of the house, so that notice of decision will tell him those things and then he will approve the driveway permit with those conditions included.
Okay, so Monday I go see it.
Patty will not have it ready by Monday.
I could, usually she waits until the minutes are finished, but I
Okay.
could tell her, I wrote everything down, so I can tell her what the conditions were.
Okay.
And she can type up something.
Okay, perfect.
So Monday or Tuesday.
Thank you, guys.
Great, thank you, have a great night.
All right, the next item on our agenda tonight is map 2, lot 33C.
You're welcome.
Good night. Completeness review request for relief of the outer 50 of the 100-foot wetland surface water conservation district buffer to build a single-family home that be located within the outer 50 feet of the 100-foot setback requirement from Dan Littlebrook. The owner is requesting relief from the outer 50 of the 100-foot wetland surface water conservation district buffer per section 13.3.4 of the Goffstown zoning ordinance. The property is owned by Albert Bernard and is located on Mountain Base Road. It's zoned agricultural wetland surface water conservation overlay district. Joanne, is this application complete?
Yes, it is complete with no regional impact.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to consider this application based on those representations?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. Joanne, bring us through this, please.
So the owner has a lot of record that was in place prior to some of our newer zoning changes. And if this were a wetland, he would not have to conform because the lot was subdivided before that. I think it was like 2003 or somewhere around there. But because there is no grandfathering with the surface water, that's why he needs to comply with the 50-foot setback. So basically, they're showing on the plan that the house itself that they're proposing would be entirely within that setback. And the Conservation Commission met last night, and they were opposed to the location of this new structure, and they said that there's other ways that they could build it, and one of them was to build a driveway on the abutting lot and do a shared driveway with the abutting lot, and then come in on the other side of the brook and build, over the brook, but not having to disturb it by accessing it through the other lot. I don't know if Earl has any
Well,
updates from
all right,
last night, but
so I'm sure he does. I'm sure he's got something to include from last night. So we have on our table, and it was emailed, the decision from the conservation.
yes.
Okay. And so you want to explain again about this is only because it's an overlay district, and if it was just wetlands, it would not be here?
So in the zoning ordinance, there's a chart and it shows different years when lots were created, that if they were prior to different years, they don't have to comply with a lot of the requirements for the wetland overlay district. In this case, the wetland, if it were a wetland, they would not need to comply with the request. However, because it's a surface water setback of 100 feet, and they're within the outer 50, they would need to comply only because there is no grandfathering. When they put the wetland setback, the surface water setback in place, they did not have any waivers or anything to that. It was just a 100-foot setback and that's it, no grandfathering. So that's where they're kind of stuck here with, the grading is not shown on this plan, but there is quite a steep drop once you get towards the brook.
Okay. All right, well, I'm sure.
There is grading on the second
What's
sheet.
that?
So it's there.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Joanne before we hear from the applicant?
We might have to go back and forth.
Okay. All right, I'm not seeing anything. Welcome, if you could identify yourselves for the record, and let's hear about this application.
Good evening, Madam Chair. My name is Earl Sanford. Here with me is Peter McTague, who did much of the work on this. Recent graduate from St. Anselm with an environmental degree.
Oh, there, congratulations.
Thank you. Moving forward. And yeah, when we were approached on this project, I guess the confusion we had, what Joanne just referred to, is the required wetland setbacks, and we will be exempt for everything but defined surface water is how it's, and we originally thought perhaps that was what the state comes up with, a list of defined surface waters. I haven't found any defined surface water list with the town, but we were told through staff that this would be a defined surface water. So.
The one place you can find it is on the GIS. There's one of the layers that you can turn on shows defined surface water.
So it is okay, good to know.
Based off not Title 9, something 9. I forget what it was.
And
But,
I assume it's on that then?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for what is it, Dan Littlebrook
Right.
is what bisects the property. So in terms of how can we,
Article 9, sorry.
Yeah, let's definitely not say title.
No, definitely not.
The Article 9, check.
Okay, all right, it's 9. All right, continue.
so well, for the general gist, it's an older subdivision. It has a fair amount of land in the back, and the brook bisects it. So the question was, how can we, I was of the opinion that we would do everything we could to prevent having to do a crossing of the brook. And so I talked to, and it will be Kenny Dion, who's the buyer, and so that's who I'm working for. We need to find a small enough house, so I think this is 40 by 38, what we're showing, with a little bump out for the garage. But it's tight, within about a foot of the setback, both in the front setback from the road, and for the 50-foot, which, not that it's a setback, but we wanted to be in that category where we meet with you guys instead of the ZBA. If we go across that line, we could come back and we can go to the ZBA. And so we had discussed it, and we got some advice from staff, and thought we'll try to make something work where we stay in the outer 50. And so that was the impetus of this. We went ahead and did a septic design with test pits. It's been approved by the state, so we're good with that. The other thing that we did is we know we're not supposed to be disturbing within that 50 feet, So we designed it specifically so that it comes out right at grade with a walkout on the back. So that's another, we're trying to be in compliance and not be disturbing. And the thing that, if I may, I presented this, Patty said just hold on to it and present it at the meeting, but this was the alternative, which to my great surprise,
Thank you.
the Conservation Commission said they would prefer this design to the one that I have.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, I wasn't quite prepared to go through all the factors involved. So I sat down today and said, okay, what's the metric for what's the most impact? I mean, again, usually if I can stay 50 feet off, that was my feeling that was the least impact. So when they said that, I guess the idea was, and I get it, that people build these houses and then there's the creep. They
Right.
start doing around it. And that's a legitimate thing. I'm not sure how much a legal thing is when you're trying to, someone can't be, it's illegal. If there's any tree they took down, they should come to get a ZBA approval for it in that 50 feet, the way the rules are written. So is it setting up for potential? Absolutely, but can we meet the letter of the law? And I would say, I think yes, although I was laughed out that you can't build that close without disturbance. I do have one that I just did in Pelham where it's against a conservation easement, and it's a 50-foot wide lot, and we needed to go within 3 feet of the lot line with an 8-foot foundation, and everyone said that's impossible. And the conservation people were out there monitoring every day while the excavation went on, and they succeeded. They had to go through surgical excavation, but I kind of test that it can be done, even though it does need some oversight. And we would be more than happy to stake that line or do whatever. And the other thing they would give me any input on was, well, if 1 foot is too close, what is far enough away? And they were just vehemently opposed to the house being on this side of the brook, saying that, because of the drainage, but we're willing to do a stormwater management plan to infiltrate, so I think we could handle that. We're willing to have the line staked to avoid going across it. They also had an issue with the well. With the new regulations, I think we can, where if you seal and grout the casing, you can get the radius as small as 25 feet around the well. So there are some creative things to help make this work, and I would gladly have those as conditions of approval if I could make the case. But just if we can go through the comparisons with this design versus what you have in front of you. Obviously, if we've got to go across the brook, there would be, like, I calculated 350 square feet of disturbance within the brook channel itself, which we would avoid by staying on the front side. When it comes to, so I broke it up into what's within the first 50 feet, and that's what's from 50 to the 100, just for kind of comparison purposes. So if you're talking roof in the first 50 feet, it didn't, there's 0 for both designs, because we're staying out of the 50 with our design, and obviously if we go across the brook, we're going to go more than 100 feet to get the building, so it doesn't have any, we would lose the creep to the most part, although even then, someone who has a brook in their front yard. You never know. But anyway, that's, to me, that's always an issue that I don't know how you regulate. But, as far as from the 50 to the 100, the proposed design does have 1,270 square feet of roof for the garage. That's this brown here, which the alternative design, which is the colored plan you have, has 0. So obviously that's a hit against this plan. Then the paved from 0 to 50, we've got 0. It's all well inside the outside the first 50, I guess is what I'm saying. But if you have to go across like this shows, you're going to have 1,445 square feet between the brown lines on this plan that I showed you, orange, I'm not sure. And then from the 50 to the 100, we have 600 square feet. This would require 1,400, I mean the alternate is at 1,400. So basically you'd end up with 2,200 square feet of greater impervious with the alternative design, which they were recommending. And when you put it all together, the roofs and the driveways, it's just a little under 1,000 square feet of additional, but that's the alternative. So going across, even though you get the house way beyond the 100 feet, you're still going to be around 1,000 square feet of more impervious than this design, which is already approved with the state for the septic. And then regrading, there's quite a bit. Within the first 50, there'd be none. With this design, we're staying completely out of it in terms of regrading, whereas it'd be 3,500 square feet when you have to take a road down through, and the little gray lines are just the limits of what we would normally do for regrading, the gray lines that are along the side of the road that are where the proposed contours will meet the existing contours. And so basically, if you go for the full 9 yards, you've got over 1,000 square feet additional regrading to go with the house in the back alternative. Impervious. The other thing they kept saying is that well, everything flows to the brook, and therefore that was an issue. But even if you're talking watershed, even the house that's beyond the 100 feet is still going to be in the watershed, and that would mean that you would end up with a total of 3,800 square feet additional impervious surfaces flowing to the brook in comparison with, again, this plan that we're proposing. So that's, there was also concern that this house would be subject to flooding. I'm not sure, I mean, it's like, it's a 36-inch culvert. I don't know if there's any history of,
Not that I'm aware.
which is a pretty small culvert for a brook. Let's see.
What's the shed in the back here? This is existing shed to be moved.
Where are you seeing that?
It's on the plan.
Well, it's on the plan you passed out tonight also.
Yeah,
The
first
first
page,
sheet.
first page.
Oh, yes.
That's the owner's shed. He owns both lots and he constructed that shed on the other side of the line.
Yeah, he wants to
But
keep-
if this development goes through, that'll be removed.
So,
Well, it's
So-
not, it's encroaching, but he owns.
He owns both
If
lots.
He owns
If
both
he
lots.
sells it, it would be on his, he'd be, either have to let the lot, that go with the lot. I mean, that lot line's an old lot line, so it's not that,
so what about the easement that was mentioned that I first heard tonight about being able to get to the back of the property, thus not disrupting the brook at all?
generally, I've seen that discouraged from planning board. And if you were to say you would encourage that and it would not be a problem, I certainly would go back to the owner with that. It still would be I mean, his house is only 33 feet off, so it's not the ideal to have, although we might be able to split it off earlier. My ideal would be to figure out a way to split it off right away, but it is very steep, right down to where the culvert is, so it would mean running, you can't just split off right away, which would be great if you could, because that.
Because of the grade.
It's
Because they're great,
pretty
yeah.
steep drop off.
Because I would, yeah, that's, I try to keep common driveways, if we can do a common curb cut and then split it, I don't have much problems, but then you get the neighbors that have to share for any length of
Right.
driveway,
No, no,
and
it's-
you've got problems,
Yeah.
potential problems.
And it looks like there's an existing catch basin and an existing drain up above that as well.
Right. And I'm not sure what those function as, but they're,
Do you think that's maybe why they were suggesting move it to the back of the lot to try to grab some of that off of there already?
well, their thing was just to, trying to get the best of both worlds, where we don't cross the brook, which this design has, but where you do get to the, where you've got elbow room back there, I could, they're legitimate concerns. I do know that this is, when it comes to housing, a small house like that is gonna comply a lot more with the desire of a lot of powers that be to get small houses that aren't in the millions of dollars range. If you did have to go to the back, my guess is, yeah, to make it worthwhile, you're gonna end up with another McMansion, but I don't know, whatever, that's, and I don't know, there's also, I was just at a seminar that they said the state is preempting some of the setbacks for certain housing, and I don't know, but that's,
It's hard to keep track of. what
yeah,
they're up to,
it was 6 hours of seminars about, must have been at least a dozen different changes in state gradually trying to encourage more building and
Well, that's
preempt.
one way of putting it. All right. Phil,
Yeah, thank you. Earl, on the the plan that you handed out, the driveway, do you know approximately what that length is of that driveway is?
Well, you can get it
Well,
pretty
if
much,
you look at the count.
those are 50-foot, so you've got, maybe 10, 20 feet, then 50, then 50, then 50, then 50. So that's 200 feet, it's under 300 thankfully, so we don't have to go to the 16-foot, I think is, I don't know whether that's the metric for the, so that, thankfully we can keep it at 12 feet, which is what I based it on, a 12-foot driveway.
The width, you mean?
Yeah, but yes, it would be
Well,
about 250 feet in round numbers.
I'm assuming, at winter time, that driveway would probably be salted a little bit.
Exactly, that's would be one of my concerns too.
And, yeah, as soon as I saw that, because it drains both ends of the driveway drain into the brook. So
Correct.
that salt will be going directly right in there. Was
Right,
there
and
any
that's it.
consideration on that? of this
Well, that's why we wanted to keep it right up front and keep off, not stay 50 feet away with all construction.
Even if they come in off the neighbor's driveway, which I don't know if this board's even considering, it would be uphill, and if they salted, it would end up in the stream.
Yeah, right.
Well, I think they may already have that problem on the other.
Yeah, but that's already there, so.
And again, we are prepared to accept, if there's a condition of a stormwater management for infiltration, we would definitely use BMPs to mitigate any of wash from the driveway or the roof.
David,
My initial view on this is I'm pleased that the footprint of this house is relatively small compared to what some people desire to build for a large house. It's 40 by 38, as stated by Mr. Sanford, and it's to me, it's an appropriate sized foundation, given the constraints of this lot. And I'd much rather have the house where it is in the outer 50 feet as it's been situated, rather than having the driveway cross Dan Little Brook. Appropriate landscaping that makes the garage is only 2 feet lower or so from the road's elevation. Then the basement below that is a walkout.
At
Yeah,
existing
yeah.
grade, so by design, yeah.
It's a very heavily forested area. There's very little opportunity to make a lot of grass in the backyard, as the conservation was concerned about. I see a lot of favor in this approach here.
I think if you look, I don't know if you went out and looked, but the neighbor to this lot to the right is a very similar situation. It's a smaller home, it's close to the road, backyard just drops off. I think it's just wooded behind the home. So it would be a very similar situation here.
Anybody else?
I do like the suggestion of narrowing the radius of the well, if it were in the front.
What was their concern with the well radius?
Zero disturbance, and you gotta run a line
Oh.
and get down there, so.
So if the smaller well radius, you could pull the well closer to the house, okay.
Right, I'd get it out of the 50.
I
so-
thought they were worried about it being over the property line, which I think isn't an issue anymore, right, Joanne? That changed in state law recently?
Yeah, yeah.
I think
Okay.
they also changed the diameter.
And it's pretty
Yeah,
close.
that's what he's saying, it would change the diameter.
No, the DES, I think, has changed it. Oh, the state regs,
Oh, okay,
state law.
No, I haven't heard that,
yeah.
but I've
Something's
heard,
changed on the radius.
I've
Yes,
heard
they're
the
allowing-
radius can go on the abutting property.
That, and even in the old rules, that's preempted because of the brook from development from septic, so we'd be covered that way. But the way the rule is basically based on they're willing to take, instead of the horizontal 75, they still want 75, but they allow you to take it on a diagonal down to the bottom of the casing. So
Oh.
theoretically, if you had a casing, you'd have 0, but they said, no, 25 is as tight as we'll allow you.
I don't have any.
David, go ahead.
I haven't observed well drilling, but is there a concern, should we have a concern that the process of well drilling will be very polluting to this stream? Or are there management practices that would mitigate that?
There are BMPs, and hopefully, I think there's some well drillers that don't seem to know about them, but yes, all the drillings, whatever you call it.
Tailings?
Tailings,
Is
whatever.
that what you'd call it?
Yeah, they're supposed to be contained, and I don't know the
Okay.
specifics, but yes, there are BMPs of how they're supposed to be doing this, so it does not pollute their surroundings.
Could that be a condition that we would want best management practices recognized by New Hampshire for drilling of this well that is 30 feet from the stream?
Yeah, I think so, David. I think the other one is the catch basin that he talked about on the other side to make sure that we capture any runoff. But I don't have anything else, Barbara.
Joanne, I have a question in connection with the fact that all we're being asked to do is to grant relief. We're not in charge of issuing building permits.
Nope.
So how do we grant relief and ensure that the building is as presented?
So we would obviously share your decision with the building department so that they're aware of it when the building plans come in. But there's no oversight from the town as far as building a single-family home. There's not somebody standing there watching everything they're doing.
And this is simply a a lot that's being developed, so there's no requirements for as-builts or anything like that. What do you require,
They
if
just-
anything?
The only thing they require is the foundation plans to make sure that the foundation is in the, once they poured it, to make sure the foundation is in the right place.
Yeah, in this situation with the front setback and the inner 50 setback, I don't think they could build much more than they're showing here.
No, and the certified plan, I think, is kind of the safety. They're not gonna get away with shifting this thing around if you require a certified foundation plan.
I don't think it's labeled, but there's this dashed line that kind of runs through the septic tank in the field. That's the front setback, correct?
That's the 100-foot. Oh, yes, yeah. Yes, the big dashed line is the front setback.
Okay, yeah, I see it better on this plan, actually, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean,
And
I guess you can make the house a little longer, but then,
I'm gonna suggest you shrink it a little myself, but that's,
All right, anything else for the,
what if you,
Scott?
what if the future owner wants to build a deck? Is that allowed in
you'd have to go for a
in that outer
variance.
50, in that inner 50, Joanne?
No, he'd have to go, like Earl just said, he'd have to get a variance.
For the inner 50.
Yeah, okay. Because obviously the second this person wants to put a deck on the house, unless it's off the
Front.
north side,
Yeah.
then it's, hopefully the building inspector picks up on that.
All right, David?
Then would it be appropriate for us to have a condition that the foundation not intrude on the 50-foot setback, including a deck? You know,
Well, I
Take
don't
that
know
right
that
up.
we can limit,
Yeah, that's the ZBA that
that's
talks
a
about the inner
ZBA
50
that
area.
deals with that kind of thing, which is, and if we're dealing with a wetland surface request, that's what we're granting.
But
We don't-
we're giving relief for a structure to be built in
Right.
the outer.
Yeah, that's what we're giving relief for, we don't
Okay,
have a lot of
Which by
control.
inherently, that means you can't intrude on the inner.
Correct.
I'm going to open the public hearing at this time on this application. We are talking about relief from the outer 50 of the 100-foot wetland surface water conservation district, Goffstown map 2, lot 33C. I'm not seeing anybody here from the public. And so I am going to close the public hearing. All right, I have to say, after reading the conservation comments, I was sort of not inclined to grant this, but after seeing what they propose as an alternative and Earl's proposed alternative, I think those are definitely worse. And in light of what's going on as far as building permits and what I have seen as far as decisions for easements that allow people to build basically on anything, I am actually thinking that this proposal is the best one. As Eric points out, it's consistent with the area. I'm just more concerned about how you manage it once the relief is granted. So that's just sort of my comments on other board members.
The only comment I have to that, regardless of how you do it, you still have the problem of after it's built.
Well, I'm at the point now that that's every application we
Right.
have. There's a problem
Right.
with what they come in afterwards and get variances for. So,
I concur with you, Barbara.
so, I just don't know how. I think the applicant has represented that well drilling would be done in accordance with best management practices, particularly given the location of it to the brook. And the applicant has represented that they're aware they need to stay within the inner and outer parameters of the overlay district, which means that the house, while it might not be identical to what's on the proposed plan, is certainly going to be limited. The applicant has also represented that there will need to be foundation plans certified to make sure they comply with the relief should we grant it, because we would want verification that that would be done. And I will note that, if I haven't said this on the record, the functions and values of this particular waterway, brook, have been submitted, and it does not appear, while they're all significant, it's not of a high significance. But I think I would rather have this than a crossing and a lot of pavement. Phil?
One of the other reasons why I would prefer this too, well, there's two, when I say my other. Number one, it prevents that long driveway.
Right.
Both sides of the driveway drain into the brook. And the other thing is that you're creating another crossing, and you have one, and it's not far from the other, and all these crossings, in case there's, high flood areas, they're all potential for clogging and causing backups. So it's one less crossing, one less bridge, one less culvert out, whatever design, and it eliminates all that disruption of the construction right there in the brook.
I have considered the Conservation Commission's suggestion of a shared driveway. We do not favor shared driveways, and I don't see, given the request or the possible development paths, that a shared driveway would make any sense or be appropriate.
I think it may cause more issues. Can I make a motion?
Anybody else? I am ready for a motion, thank you.
Awesome. Make a motion to approve the relief from the outer 50 of the 100 Wetlands Surface Water Conservation District in this map lot, map 2, lot 33C, with the conditions that that we restrict the well radius to 25 feet as discussed, and the catch basin as well. Also be put in place to prevent runoff.
And making the findings of facts 1 through 5 as set forth on page 8 of our packet.
Yes.
Is there a second? Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, it carries. And my apologies to the Conservation Commission, because I understand their concerns, but from a planning perspective, I have a lot that I know is going to be allowed to be developed, and I think that this is less intrusive than the alternatives.
Thank you very much.
I was wondering if you were going to show up.
I tell you, you've helped me recover from my PTSD from walking in this room. I was getting beat up I was told they'd never seen a worse plan in their lives.
We're gonna save that for another time.
Yeah.
Don't think you're off the hook.
Keep the feeling close, Earl.
All right.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Is there any other business, Joanne? You mentioned that we do not have any applications for October 9th, and the deadline for submittal has occurred.
That's correct.
I'd like to make a motion to have no meeting on October 9th.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, it carries. Thank you. I'm not the regular chair, so I didn't feel like I could just cancel it.
One other new
Yes?
business. I did, per the conversation, the CIP, last time I did bring up the select board, that we had issues with certain members not being here from the CIP, and then no body to fully be able to discuss those items. That was brought up the select board, and discussions will be had as we get through the budgeting process.
Yeah, you'll go through it. Okay, thank you for bringing that up. Development regs. We have two things on our plate at this time, we always have zoning changes on our plate at this time of year. Joanne, what's the deadline for zoning changes? October 26th, 24th?
So I've asked, for the open space committee, they've been working on some changes that will need to be incorporated into the zoning ordinance. And I've asked Colleen to have that to us by October 26th.
We have scheduled a
Because-
meeting for, I think, October 12th or 13th. What the Open Space Subcommittee is planning on doing is recommending some changes to the zoning ordinance, which are really sort of to tighten it up, because the development regs is really what controls the actual application. The zoning ordinance is sort of when you do it. So we will have that for you in time. We are still working on the development regs with the intention that it be incorporated into whatever changes we finally have public hearings on in the upcoming months.
So we have a workshop for the zoning changes scheduled for the first meeting in November. I don't have the date in front of me.
Okay.
That meeting, you'll go over the changes that have been proposed. Mainly, they're all the ones that the state has already put in place. I'm
Same
not
as
really
last year.
sure, I haven't been able to get an answer from anyone as to why the town needs to vote on them, if it's like a mandate from the state. But we do, so for now.
We're being
please.
told that we
Yeah.
need to do it, though I have sent emails saying, what, if the state has made us change it, why are we
Why are we
having-
voting on it?
Why are we voting on it?
So
But nobody answers.
I've redlined the zoning ordinance that we currently have with the changes, and I've made a list of all of those changes in the form of a warrant article. This is my last meeting until the beginning of December. I'm going out for my knee operation. And Sylvia how do you say her name? Bonholic, is that right? Bonholic.
Yeah.
She's the executive director of Southern New Hampshire Planning. She will be here for the meetings, and she'll put in about 16 hours a week.
We approved that at the
Yeah.
select board meeting
So-
last time.
Is she going to be physically in this
I think
building? Or is she?
just a little bit, you know,
Okay.
back and forth. They'll be setting her up with a computer and all of
I
that.
heard some physical access and remote access at the same time.
And
Yeah.
she will be here for the meeting.
But she will be here for the meetings. So,
As long as she's within that 16 hours, there was a discussion if we need more hours or if somebody needs to cover, then they will cover.
yeah, Patty said she's available to
You know,
cover.
I'll be here,
if
but I don't know
needed.
if I could read all that stuff.
So, anyway.
Between
so-
Patty and Sylvia, I think
Yeah,
they'll be able to
and
figure it out.
Patty will be in, you know, she's the one who sees the applications first and all of that, so she'll know what's going on. What was I gonna say? I forgot.
I'll have
Something
to
do with
get my fob
regulations.
working after hours and have somebody
Yeah.
teach me how to lock this place and stuff too,
I can
guess.
show you tonight.
So I'm still confused by the zoning changes and we have to vote on them as a warrant article, like.
So that's what all the other towns are doing, and that's what we were told to do. We did it last year, and they all passed, and we're doing it again this year.
What happens if they don't pass?
Well, that
Well,
was
that's
one of
my,
my
that was my
questions.
legal question.
Right,
Because it doesn't really matter at that point in time, it's still in state law.
right. That
Right,
was-
and it just adds questions to the ballot, it makes it longer, it's more
Yeah.
expensive to print, it takes longer to vote, and
Yeah.
Right.
there's no reason to be doing
I
it.
think I
And
had
writer's
10 or
cramp last
11
year.
articles
I had
based
Has
on
writer's
those
cramp last
changes.
year
Yeah,
filling
so
in all
has
the searches.
has the attorney directed us to do
I
this?
don't think Derek's asked the attorney, but the direction that we're getting, there's lots of workshops going on. David just went to one just the other day, right?
It was a Zoom meeting on recent New Hampshire zoning changes.
And did anyone ask that question?
No.
So if it becomes a warrant article and it passes, what happens then?
Then, we already have to change the zoning ordinance, so,
That's a given,
yeah,
because the state said so.
right.
Okay.
And some of the things that the state
So wait a minute,
changed-
just
Wait,
back
wait,
up,
wait,
so
wait.
as part of the normal process, every year, there are deadlines set for changes to the zoning ordinances. They can come in either from the planning board, we can say we wanna change something, or a member of the public can submit one.
There's
There-
like a month
There's
window.
2 different deadlines for receiving them, but there are deadlines for that, regardless of the state changes. So those deadlines are usually around December.
No, it's November, the middle of November. to the
Mid-November.
middle of December.
And then we have to have 2 public hearings on the proposed changes, which occur in December. Do we usually have one in December, or is it January?
January.
In January. So even if the state didn't have any changes and we didn't have any, we'd need to have that in our schedule in case any came in by petition. So we will have a change in the zoning ordinance proposed if we choose to accept the recommendation of the Open Space Committee, because there are a couple of things based on what we're doing that we think should change in the zoning ordinance, and the section that deals with the open space needs to change, although we're still, the development regs, it will still exist. But right now, I don't know, are there any planning board generated changes to the zoning ordinance? I know in prior years, you've kept a running list of things that have come up. Are there
I
any?
I looked through the book, I had nothing as a list, but now I'm going through page by page to see it, because I do make notes within the book itself. And I did notice that some of the things in the book I noted change the development regs. So there's things like, say for instance, a definition that's new, that I made the change for the zoning ordinance, the proposed change. And now we also have to make that same change in the development regs.
But I
So-
guess as to zoning, keeping the discussion on zoning ordinances, do we have anything that's come up in the past year that's led us to think we should change something in the zoning ordinance?
As I said, I'm going through the zoning
Oh, you might have
ordinance
other
now,
notes
so
for
I
that.
might have other notes.
Are you gonna be able to get that done by the deadline?
Yeah, I have another, like, tomorrow, and then I have another week next week, and then like one day the following week, and then
Oh,
I'm
okay,
gone.
all right. So you're gonna be able to get that together so Sylvia/Patty can have that, so any other changes we'll have.
And we're having a meeting with Scott, Patty, myself, and Sylvia and Derek on Monday. to
Okay.
Go over everything.
Okay.
All right, and then as to the development regs, that's something we do internally with public hearings.
Correct.
So we're having a hard time getting through the development regs as a group, so we're asking that I've talked to Tim about this, that everybody take a look at the development regs, and it would, we know very little happens in December, so really if you can get your comments in to staff before Thanksgiving, sort of keeping it online with zoning, though we'll be doing it independently, that would be great.
What I'd like to do is make those changes to the development regs as a red line, so you'll see it was added since that draft that you received, and then you'll have the most updated version to review.
Okay, and so what is your proposal for how to get that to people? You're going to email it, or what
So
are you
we
going to
can
do?
email it, but we could also mail it hard copy if you prefer. I don't know how most people I know. Josh likes it emailed. I don't know what others like. I'm sure some people would want, like Tim would probably prefer a hard copy.
Okay, so
Stone
what,
tablet.
Not sure about the others.
all right, so Patty can send out an email and
Yeah.
say, we've done an updated copy
Yeah.
of the changes to the development regs, how do you want it? And if you want it, we can come by or get it mailed. All right, so is there anything else for the?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Non-debatable, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You're leaving. Good night, everybody.